Only to find cash out is suspended and you're frozen out of your bet. That's why when you bet fair this Euros, you can cash out when you want, with no suspensions on match odds. We won't freeze you out of your bet because we're Betfair.
Applies to sportsbook match odds markets on Euro Elite Football. Excludes free bets, exchange bets, bet builder, odds on that and bet settlement window. T's and C's apply. 18+. See gamblingcare.ie.
Watch the SSE Airtricity Premier Division, First Division and Women's National League action live with the brand new LOI TV Season Pass. The League of Ireland's exclusive HD streaming service returns with live commentary at home, on the go or wherever you are. Sign up now for your LOI TV Premier Division Pass from just €79, First Division Pass from only €49 and Women's National League matches for free. Go to loitv.ie for more.
You ain't shit! I wish I was 50 years younger and I'd kick your ass.
Well, fans can be the harshest critics, you know.
And they often are.
A wife is often the harshest critic of her husband.
I thought I was invincible. That's what you're trained to believe as a sports person.
There was 4 million people in Ireland who knew much more about managing football teams than I did. When it comes to music, I can spoof with the best.
Your sporting career is the best time you'll have, and you know you have to hang on to it for as long as you like because everything else is pretty crappy.
And this is not lies. Stephen Rothschild has never spoken to Jim McGuinness in his life.
And you're welcome back to Off the Ball Saturday here on News Talk. John Duggan with you through until 5. You can text us on 53106. We're streaming the conversation as well now, so as well as listening on News Talk, you can watch us on the Off the Ball social channels for Periscope on Twitter, at Off the Ball, YouTube, Facebook, and on the OTB Sports app. Search OTB Sports in your app store now to download the app if you haven't yet already. Some great stuff on it. This is the Saturday panel. Kind of crept up on us, hasn't it? The Euros, after a postponement of a year. It kicks off next Friday. Italy against Turkey in Rome. 51 games, 11 cities, a Wembley final. No Republic of Ireland, sadly. But we'll all be interested in an excellent tournament which comes around every few years. To get their memories of the finals they were involved in, to look ahead, to maybe give us a winner, we're delighted to be joined by the former Manchester City, Everton and Aston Villa defender Richard Dunne, a veteran of 80 caps in green, a part of Euro 2012 and an OTB regular as well and a part of Euro 2016. David Meyler, the former Sunderland, Hull and Reading midfielder who lined out 26 times for his country. Richard and David, great to have you on.
Hiya John. Hi David.
Richie, all right lad? JD, what's happening?
What's the form? Lads, you good form?
Yeah, good. Enjoying the sunshine, so it's all nice at the moment.
Yeah, it's been a long 15 months, isn't it, lads? Before we get into the nitty-gritty of the Euros and your memories and your preview of this year's tournament, just to David on Thursday, Andorra, I kind of feel neutral about it. I was really worried for a long time. Then they flagged. Then we played well maybe for the last half hour. Were you encouraged by it? Are you worried? What's your kind of feeling now the dust has settled?
I was certainly encouraged by the last half an hour. It's not good, to go one behind, kind of wake up. I felt the first half was very flat, kind of, lads were kind of just knocking the ball around for the sake of knocking it around without any real purpose. A lot of the wingers, certainly say like Troy Parrott, who came very deep to try and get on the ball. He was desperate to make an impact in the first half, and you could see in the second half, once he got the ball higher up, he started to, cause problems where he got his goals from. Certainly, look, JD, you can look at it, one or two ways. I think the big thing is, look, Stephen needed the win. It's been 11 games, so they've gotten that. Albeit, you want a better performance, of course. It is against Andorra, who aren't particularly good. I think the big thing now is they've gotten that victory. They're going into the Hungary game. If they can put on a performance, then, the previous game will be forgotten about. So I think that's the big thing. They just need to get that momentum. They've got the win under their belts. It's massive for, Stephen, the coaching staff, the players, everyone. I'm just hoping that last 30 minutes will take into the next game and they'll be able to put on a better performance to get a result again.
Great for Troy Parrott. Richard took the game by the scruff of the neck, got a couple of goals. You see the delight in Jason Knight's face when he scored. Daryl Horgan has never let us down. How are you feeling about the direction of the team at the moment? Are you encouraged, or would you have misgivings?
I think a victory is great. It gives them confidence. The run that they've been on over the last however long hasn't been great. So just to get that victory and get that mindset change where they're going into games and maybe believing that they're going to win. If they can follow up against Hungary with another victory, it'll set them up well. And hopefully it's a change of form and a brighter future than what we've seen in the last couple of months.
Maybe it's a time actually to give Troy a bit of a run in the team, because we've been all been crying out for a lack of a striker, and it's he hasn't had the best of seasons, Richard, and he's acknowledged that himself. But he's only 19. I suppose we have to remember he's still a young lad.
Yeah, not having a great season is not a bad thing, especially when you're that young and but if you're playing every week and you're learning, that's what he's gaining from this season, rather than outstanding performances. Just being on the pitch and learning and finding out how men's football works will be brilliant for him. And I think, certainly after scoring 2 goals, he'd be one of the first names on the team sheet. And we've thought for a long while that he'd be a player that would break through and maybe be someone that we could all hang our hopes on. And as he starts scoring goals, well, then maybe he will be, and give him as much chance as he can to prove himself.
What are you looking for then on Tuesday, David? Anybody you like to see in the team that wasn't the other night?
It's always very difficult, isn't it? Obviously, they'll have the confidence from getting, the result and winning the game. There's a lot of new faces in the squad. Of course, look, Stephen's going to want to see them play international football. It's their first, camp, whether or not they're up to the level or not. But it's very difficult for him to, make too many changes. It's like Richie said, and I've said there previously, they've now got that, momentum from winning a game. That one's gone off their back. So they want to go in and put in a performance, get a result. I don't want to see him, change too much. Later on, you can give lads run-outs or whatever. But he kind of had a nice core of a team that, looked familiar with one another. And the more they kind of play together, they'll get used to one another more. So I definitely wouldn't like to see too much change. But then again, I'm not the manager, so it'll be interesting to see what he does do.
Absolutely, and we'll talk a bit more about it between 3 and 5 with Dan and Shane Keegan. Richard, the Euros 2012, it was a bit of a challenge in Poland. We faced some amazing teams. Spain initially ended up in the final. I often feel like I was a fan on the journey, and I felt that the journey was almost as great as the destination. Did you feel that way as a player? Because we hadn't qualified for a tournament for 10 years.
Yeah, it was special to qualify, and you obviously go there with all the high hopes of making it a successful tournament, but the truth was that the teams in our group were too strong for us. I think after the first game, certainly against Croatia, is the one where you were hoping to get some points, and just didn't go for us on the night or whatever. And then from there on, it was an uphill task. So as amazing as it was to qualify and to be part of a Euros campaign, the results is what stays with you, and that's sort of what taints the experience. But in terms of the fans and how all that went, I'm sure it was an amazing trip, and the atmosphere in the stadium never changed the whole time. So it was a good experience for some, probably not for the players though.
When you were in the middle of the qualifiers, there was that Iron Curtain game that people always refer to, Richard, when you almost single-handedly kept the Russians out in Moscow and Paul McGrath was lauding you. And does that game have fond memories for you? Do you remember much about it?
I do remember it. Obviously, it's a good memory, but it's hard because I don't tend to look back on individual games and stuff like that. But throughout the qualifying period, we were a strong defensive team, and we done really well. So it was disappointing when we got there that we couldn't carry that on. But as I say, it's playing for Ireland's great. So any good memories you try and keep hold of for as long as possible.
The jersey had to be replaced, and they had to get a pen out and put the number 5 on it.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know who came up with that idea. It was Alan Kelly, I think, who came out with the marker and started scribbling on it. So, but it was strange because you got a smack in the face and then try and run back on the pitch to play, and then the refs send you back off because you don't have a number. So, trying to work it all out in your head like that was strange. It's only then at the end when I come off and seeing how crap he'd drawn the number 5 on it.
Do you know what ended up happening to the jersey, Richard?
I think it was raffled off for charity. I don't know where or which charity, but I gave it away on that premise that it would be raffled off.
Did you feel it was a bigger deal when you're out of major finals? Because obviously you're involved in the squad for the World Cup in 2002. Is it a bigger deal when you're in an international tournament, or does it just feel like another game?
Tournaments are great. The whole environment around it is brilliant, and you can really focus into what you're supposed to be doing. I think when we went to Poland, it seemed to be a really, really long build-up to get to the tournament. We were away for, 3 weeks or 4 weeks or something, and it dragged out. But once the tournament starts, you're watching games, you're looking out for results, you're preparing for your next match, and it's a great experience and definitely different than your general 10-day get together for a qualifier.
And when it's not going so well in the camp, can you still have a laugh, or was it tense? What was the inner sanctum like at the time?
It was all right, to be honest. I mean, we were very disappointed after that force match, and you realise how big the task is that you have to play Spain next. But as a footballer, I'm sure every game you go into, you believe, well, we can win, we can do something here tonight. And unfortunately, we couldn't. We got hammered. But it was sort of one of those things where you have to come to a realisation sometimes when you're playing football that teams are better than you and players are better than you. And on that occasion, certainly Spain and Italy were ahead of us in terms of where they were. If it had been 2 years previous for the World Cup, I think us as individual players, we were all in a better space and in better form then. So it was a tough one to take, but you try and keep your head up, you keep going, and you've still got games to play. So you try and cheer everyone up around the camp rather than sulking around.
What is peak Spain like to play against? Because they were at their zenith of quality, weren't they?
Yeah, they were unbelievable, and you can't get near them basically. When they were playing and they were moving the ball as quick as they did, it would have been nice to watch if you weren't in the middle of it and getting pulled left, right, and centre. So it's not a game I've ever watched back, but it's a game that I remember just on the basis that you never felt like you were in the right position wherever you did.
How did you feel, David, as being a player that wasn't involved in the first team? Did you have an environment with Martin O'Neill and Roy Keane where everybody is giving an equal contribution, or was there an individual frustration around that in 2016? How was your Euro experience?
Obviously, the whole, as Richie said, they're going to a major tournament is everything you dream of, obviously representing your country. I think my biggest regret looking back on it was I was more happy to make the 23 than push for the starting 11. I just come off the back of winning the playoffs with Hull. We'd gone to Cork. If you remember, we played Belarus where we lost 1-0, and then the squad was announced. And I took it for granted. I was kind of like, I'm one of the lads going, and I could have done more in training. Kind of, certainly after the Belgian game when we'd lost, knew the manager was going to make changes. Albeit the midfielders had done well, and Glenn James and Jeff. Certainly, we were all a part of it. There was a great camaraderie between our group. Everyone was cheering one another on. If you look at, prime example is the Italy game when Robbie scores. All of us kind of run onto the pitch and we're running around. That was the beauty of the squads I was involved in. We were all together. It didn't matter. I remember at one occasion, Martin sent myself and Stephen Quinn out to warm up in the last few minutes of the Italy game, and he called us both back, and Quinny got on ahead of me, but I was delighted for Quinny to get on. That was the truth of it. There was no bitterness. There was none of that really in our squad, and lads were just desperate for one another to do well.
And you had moments. You had that moment in Lille, and you also rattled France in that last 16 game, a country that would go on to win the World Cup a couple of years later. Oh
no, definitely. Look, if you look at Martin made some big calls after the Belgian game, like leaving out John O'Shea. Obviously Richie Keogh came in. Then we went into the France game, and obviously Longy does what he does best, getting in behind. He gets brought down, and we get a penalty, and Brady scores, and you're thinking, here we go. We're about to beat France, and it's a bit like Richie said there. When you play against the big nations, the Spains, the Italys, the Frances, they do have that bit more quality, and they can just stay in games. They can see it through, and they created chances, and Griezmann gets chances, he scores goals, and obviously Duffy getting sent off didn't kind of help us going out to 10 men against France. But all in all, the whole experience, the occasions, going to the stadiums, it's just unbelievable. It really is.
Do you get to let your hair down at all, Richard, during the finals?
No, of course not. It's a serious competition, so you have to just try and prepare as good as you can. It's I think when we went away, we might have had a night or two where we were allowed to sort of relax and bond and stuff like that. And I think when you're away for 4 or 5 weeks, it's necessary, because you can't be penned up in a hotel all that time. You need to be able to go out and have different scenery and stuff like that. So, and it certainly helps in terms of the team spirit. It keeps everyone sort of fresh and on their toes and ready to go again.
Does boredom set in? Is it difficult to stave off boredom?
Yeah, I think it's long days, isn't it? wake up in the morning, do a bit of training, and you're finished by 11:30, 12, and your day is on for up to midnight again. So it's long days and trying to occupy yourself. And the staff are brilliant because they try and do everything they possibly can, but you just want to play. You just want to be out on the pitch, and it's tough sometimes to deal with, but it's part and parcel of being in a tournament, or even on those international qualifiers when you're away for 10 days or 2 weeks.
And your experience of that, David?
Well, as you well know, I'm a gamer, so I was quite fortunate that, in days where we would, tough training sessions where you'd stay in the hotel, a lot of us just, were on the PlayStation playing away, and would help pass 2 or 3 hours. Of course, look, we weren't in Poland, we were in France, so it's a beautiful place. There's a lot of scenery. We were in Paris for a while. You get to go around Paris. Remember myself and Kieran Clark going sightseeing, going to the Louvre and the Eiffel Tower and all that and taking photos. So it was nice for that. And Martin was very good for it. He knew when to give us downtime and, when he needed to keep us together for, say, meetings or whatever. So that's key because, it is tough. It is difficult. You're away for a long time. You're away from your family. And, of course, it's a major tournament. The whole country's watching you and they're wishing you well in that. You can't be out gallivanting, getting up to no good.
Were you a golfer, Richard? How did you? Were you gaming?
No, we actually brought a couple of trophies for golf to play a few rounds of golf, but we never ended up getting out on the course. We just never had time, and certainly when we were away in Poland, Trapattoni didn't really want us doing that sort of stuff. He wanted us to relax and rest and stuff like that. When we went to Korea, I think we had a day out at Disneyland and different things like that. So that broke it up a little bit. But it's just trying to find little things. And if you're not a gamer or you're not a golfer or whatever, it's just making sure that you're not sat in your room with your feet up, just slowly losing your mind.
It's a long time now since Trapp left. What was he like to play for? Because it was quite a long stint from 08 to 12 or 13 or 14 with him, Richard.
Yeah, he was very tough. He was very strict in terms of what he wanted and what he expected from people around the hotel and in training and preparation and stuff like that. But I think he was successful because he was so focused on the detail of every match. There was a situation where there was a throw-in I think it was the 1984 UEFA Cup final, and it still stood on his mind. He was still talking about it, still going on about it, and making us try and fix it and stuff like that. So he had a mindset where the small details will make a big difference. And I think we went a long stage and not conceding any goals, and not conceding any goals from set pieces. And then again, like I said, in the Euros, we couldn't defend set pieces. We were just conceding from all sorts. So we just sort of ran out of steam in the end.
Did you feel that charisma in the dressing room because he'd been such a winner at club level?
He was brilliant. He was really good and really, he could go off in terms of the passion that he had. He just wanted it so badly that he would maybe talk on and on and on. He just wanted you to understand what he wanted from you. But in terms of a manager, I thought he was brilliant. And I know people didn't love the style of football that they played, but it was successful and it made us a very, very difficult team to play against, and probably got the most out of what that group could have.
Yeah, and a clear communicator in the dressing room.
Yeah, he was obviously a mixture of English and Italian, but there's no doubt when you have a man of that experience, you understand him, you know what he wants, and his gestures and different things like that leave you in no doubt that this is your job today and this is what is expected of you. So he was a really good manager, and I think he should be really, really, well, I hope he is highly respected for what he did.
No, absolutely. I think he definitely is, Richard. And Martin O'Neill, a motivator by all accounts, by everything we read and we see, David. Was that the fly in the wall experience for you?
Oh, 100%. The games, if you go back, to the start of that campaign where I played against Germany right back, Martin made me feel as if I was the best right back in the world going into the game. He had a knack of getting the best out of lads. People go on, they can talk all they want about tactics and all that, but they don't change too much. He just had an act and a way to get, the best out of lads, whether it be, fellas switching positions or, just getting more out of them. Look, I couldn't say a bad word about him. I played a lot under him with Ireland. He was brilliant for me. I know a lot of lads do respect him. It's usually the fellas who don't play are usually the ones who have something to say, but a lot of the lads think very highly of Martin and what we achieved in 16, obviously coming up short then in 18. But it was certainly a great manager to work for.
And after the France game, it was a narrow defeat. They kind of came away in the end. They got a couple of quick goals in the second half. Were you gutted? Were you happy? What was the feeling afterwards?
No, I was gutted. Sure, like, look, Richie will tell you, the wives are trying to, plan holidays and whatever. And my missus had organised a holiday in Portugal. And then obviously when we beat Italy, I said, look, I'm not coming for another week there. We're staying here. And I said, I hope I'm not coming for, 2 weeks. We were desperate, of course, to, try and go as far as you can. Obviously, you come up against a France squad that was very, very good. You just have to take it on the chin. And the lads had poured everything into the game. On the end of the day, we came up short. But you look back on it with fond memories. That team inevitably went on to win the World Cup. So you got to take your hat off to them.
53106, you want a question for Richard Dunne or David Meyler here on the Saturday panel. Richard, do you know what's going on with the fans and with the fun they're having and the connection with them, or is it a case that you're in a bubble and you only see them at the matches? Was there much of a tangible connection with the supporters on these trips? Because they really do make it. They really are such a huge part of it.
Yeah, they do. And I think, like David says, you have your family there and you have your friends who come over to look for tickets, and they'll come up to the hotel to see it, and they'll tell you the experiences that they're having and how the whole supporters trip is working out for them. And it's nice because you want them to enjoy themselves, you want them to have a good time, and it's one of those things, when you hear the stories, it makes you proud. It makes you prouder and you want to go out and stay and last as long as you possibly can, so that their party and their enjoyment continues. And having that group of supporters come around everywhere, all over the world, you can't sort of explain how important and how good it is for the team. And I think when the team perform on the pitch, it's a reward for the fans in terms of we're just playing off their spirit and going for it, because we know that they will do us proud in stadiums in different countries around the world. So we try and do the same for them on the pitch.
You had many mates who went over, Richard?
Loads of family came over and cousins and friends and everything, but you see them and they look great on day one. By day 5, they're all a bits. So it's so fun.
And David, did you have many family and friends over in France?
I did, yeah. Obviously, my mum, dad, sister came. My wife came over for the back end games, but then left to obviously go on holidays. But my family were respectable because all eyes would be on my father. He was a senior county hurling manager at the time, so I don't think he'd been falling out of bars. All my mates came as well, and they're sending you texts or pictures from the Irish fan zone or whatever, saying getting the crack over here. I had a buddy who went over in a camper van from Dublin, travelled all the way across. And it's the stories you hear, and it's those things. Like I was almost envious and jealous that I never got to experience it that way. To kind of jump in a camper van or something and travel across Europe and support your country going around. It's just unbelievable. And then you see Irish fans got an award in day after France for being the best respected fans, and that's what you want to hear, isn't it?
Okay, we got to take a break. David Meyler and Richard Dunne, thanks for sharing your memories of 2012 and 2016. We're going to get your predictions on the Euros as well in the next part of the panel. Listeners out there, were you in Poland? Were you in France in 2012 or 2016? Share your story, share your memories. 53106 here on News Talk and Off the Ball, and we're back after the break.
The Saturday panel on Off the Ball.
Our intercity trains are now operating at 50% capacity, in line with public health guidelines. That means if you have a necessary journey, you must pre-book your intercity ticket at irishrail.ie. Thank you for helping us all stay safe. From Éireann Road Éireann, part of the Transport for Ireland network.
Petrol or electric? Petrol or electric? Why choose petrol and electric? Discover the BMW plug-in hybrid range. Visit your BMW retailer or find out more at bmw.ie. Sometimes electric, always BMW.
Enjoy perfect dishes with Zanussi's large capacity multifunction ovens. And when you're finished, the cleanup will be a breeze with the built-in self-cleaning function. For more information, go online to powercity.ie or call in store today.
Tech Talk with Jess Kelly.
On the latest Tech Talk, we'll hear how Dublin City Council is continuing to transform the capital into a smart city. Derek Riley will talk about electrifying your classic car. Plus, we'll learn all about Huawei's operating system, Harmony OS.
Tech Talk with Jess Kelly.
Thanks to Think. Visit thinkpm.ie.
Listen and subscribe to the podcast now or tune in this evening at 5.
On News Talk.
This is Water Safety Ireland with a very important message. As we all adhere to social distancing, please remember to swim in lifeguarded waterways. Lifeguards are there every weekend in June and full-time in July and August. They are there to protect. Let them be there for you. Supported by the Government of Ireland.
Ireland is recovering from the pandemic. Our society and economy continues to reopen as the vaccination programme makes a real difference in people's lives. And our economic recovery plan helps to get people back to work. We are getting there, and as we recover, we still need to stick to the public health measures. The government continues to advise against all non-essential travel. If you travel to Ireland from overseas, you must quarantine at home. You can stop quarantining if you get a negative PCR test taken no less than 5 days after arrival in Ireland. This PCR test is free. Travel to and from Great Britain is a particular concern due to new variants of COVID-19. If you arrive from Great Britain, you are reminded to quarantine at home and book your free PCR test. Let's all keep working together and keep moving forward. Go to gov.ie/COVID travel for more information. Supported by the Government of Ireland.
Sean, what's that thing going round the garden?
That is our new Husqvarna Automower.
Automower?
Yeah, it's a robotic lawnmower from Husqvarna. Cuts the grass automatically, has GPS tracking and an app. Even works in the rain. I just thought, why spend time cutting grass when I could spend it with the family?
Great! You can put the dinner on, so...
No can do, love. Have to paint the man cave.
Husqvarna Automower. Never mow again. Learn more at husqvarna.ie.
Make it a barbecue to relish this bank holiday at Aldi with seeded brioche burger buns 4-pack $1.15. Ford Bia quality assured at 100% Irish 5% fat beef burgers was $2.29 now $1.89. Irish sliced medium red cheddar $1.49. Great value craft beer like O'Shea's Pale New Dawn $1.79. And get 50% extra free on a range of specially selected berries June 3rd to 9th. Now that's a very good offer. Aldi, every day amazing. Terms apply. Please drink responsibly.
It's been a while, hasn't it? A while since you've really looked forward to something. Well, while you've been waiting, the orchard has weathered the winter, the blossom has bloomed, the harvest has been rich, and now the Bulmers is ready. So pick some up and take the opportunity to win a magical glamping experience for you and 5 friends in the Bulmers Orchard. See in store for more details. Make it worth the wait. Bulmers Original Cider. When time bears fruit. Enjoy Bulmers responsibly. Visit bulmers.ie.
Get the most out of your home with the new Home magazine from the Sunday Times. Our 32-page supplement will answer all your homemaking queries, including advice for buying or selling your house, alongside decorating tips, cooking and gardening. Pick up your copy of Home this weekend only in the Sunday Times, or visit thetimes.ie/join.
Watch the SSE Airtricity Premier Division, First Division and Women's National League action live with the brand new LOI TV Season Pass. The League of Ireland's exclusive HD streaming service returns with live commentary at home, on the go or wherever you are. Sign up now for your LOI TV Premier Division Pass from just €79, First Division Pass from only €49 and Women's National League matches for free. Go to loitv.ie for more.
On 106 to 108 FM, on newstalk.com, on smart speaker, and on the Newstalk app. This is Newstalk.
It's 2 o'clock. Good afternoon. I'm Stephen Murphy. The Health Minister says the public disorder on Dublin streets last night was thuggish and completely unacceptable. Large crowds of young people gathered to socialise in the South William Street, Stephen's Green and Temple Bar areas. Glass bottles were among the missiles thrown at Gardaí. 14 people were arrested and one officer was injured. Stephen Donnelly says it shouldn't have happened.
What happened last night was nothing short of a disgrace. Nobody has the right to attack our Gardaí. Absolutely nobody has. It is thuggish behaviour and it is completely unacceptable.
Well, these people on South William Street today have mixed views.
There's a balance between the government and the council giving some facilities, but also people having the cop on.
You're dealing with Irish people. Give them a pedestrianised street and alcohol. What are they going to do?
In other news, members of the G7 have agreed on a deal to tackle corporate tax avoidance by multinational tech companies. Businesses like Amazon, Facebook and Google were previously able to move their profits and be taxed on the lowest rates available. But the world's richest nations have now agreed on a worldwide minimum rate of at least 15%. The move will likely put pressure on Ireland to increase its rate above the current 12.5%. Here's UK Chancellor Rishi Sunak.
The principle of fairness. That's what we've achieved today, to ensure that there's a level playing field for all types of companies, and whether it's people operating in tax havens or it's digital companies, we're going to level the playing field and inject that principle of fairness into our global tax system. That's the prize.
A new online referral system for COVID-19 testing has gone live in Limerick today. It's part of measures aimed at tackling the high rates of coronavirus in the county. Testing capacity at one of the walk-in centres has been doubled from today, and another pop-up facility will open next week. And finally, United Airlines has announced plans to buy 15 new Supersonic planes. The US company wants to bring travel faster than the speed of sound back to aviation in 2029. Supersonic flights ended in 2003 when Concorde was retired by British Airways and Air France. It's 2 minutes past 2.
News Talk Weather.
Thanks to Ryanair. We're listening to customers so we can improve our services.
Sunny spells this afternoon, but staying cloudy overall. Most places will be dry, but there'll be isolated showers in the eastern half of the country. Highest temperatures 14 to 18 degrees. And now you're up to date on News Talk.
The Saturday panel on Off the Ball.
This is Off the Ball Saturday on News Talk. John Duggan with you through until 5. You can text us 53106, tweet us at Off the Ball. We're back with the Saturday panel. We are looking ahead to the European Championship. Our coverage on our panel this week thanks to Paddy Power. For information on responsible gambling, visit gamblingcare.ie. Delighted to be joined by Richard Dunne, the former Manchester City, Everton and Aston Villa defender, a veteran of 80 caps, part of Euro 2012 and OTB regular and a part of Euro 2016, the former Sunderland, Hull and Reading midfielder David Meyler, who lined out 26 times for his country. As well as listening on News Talk, you can watch us on the social and digital channels for Off the Ball, for Periscope on Twitter, at Off the Ball, YouTube, Facebook, and we're also streaming the conversation on the new OTB Sports app. Just before we get into predictions around the Euros, lads, got a text in here on 53106. Can you ask the lads which Irish players they played with had the most talent or ability that we might not have necessarily seen, David?
Wow. I suppose the first two that jumped to my mind are Aidan McGeady and Wes Hoolan.
Yeah.
Aidan was just so gifted. Anytime in training or in a game, if you remember back to the start of that Euro campaign against Georgia away, where he gets the ball, he does that little manoeuvre there. It's renowned as the McGeady spin. Just the stuff he used to do in training and 1v1s in areas, taking fellas on. And then Wes, just, you look at him, he signed a new contract at Cambridge for a year and he's 40. It's just unbelievable, you know, the way he used to go about. I know they're not really, I know he's looking for someone outside the box, but they're the kind of two that jump out in your mind. You know, they were exceptional players.
And Richard, for you, anybody that we might not necessarily have seen that really had the ability and the talent?
I'd agree with David, certainly with them two. Them two were outstanding and probably never got the chance to show it as much as I'm sure they wanted to on the international stage. And another one who sort of falls into that bracket would be Stephen Ireland. I think when you see him in training, and I was fortunate and played with him at club level for a long time as well, he was literally unplayable sometimes. And again, another player who probably didn't quite get the opportunity to show it on as much on the international stage.
I'd say they're good at Manchester City, are they? It's been a tough week for them in a way. You know, I know they won the Premier League, but a disappointing result last week.
Yeah, it wasn't a great performance in the final. Obviously, that was the aim, I presume, at the start of the season, was to win the Champions League, and they done great to stay involved in all the tournaments right up to the end. But it wasn't to be. But they're still a very strong squad, and I'm sure they'll add to it and be back stronger again for another crack next season.
Were you surprised you didn't play a holding midfielder?
I was surprised because I'd seen it in previous seasons where they changed the team to suit the opposition that they were playing, and it didn't work out for them. And when they beat Dortmund and they beat PSG, they played the way they played in the Premier League all season. They played that 4-3-3 with a holding midfielder and retained possession and just looked an unbelievable team. And then he changed it again for the final, so it was quite a surprise. He's obviously had his ideas and thoughts on how it would work out, but I think from a fan's point of view, you would have just loved to see that consistency in the selection of the team to go and play what you know and what you have been doing over the previous 10 months.
Tuchel won the night, didn't he, David?
No, he did. Look, it was even in the league, in the FA Cup semi-final. He marked his cards. He went out. I know they made changes going into those games because they were fresh off the Champions League, quarter-final, semi-final. But he just got it right. They obviously soaked up some pressure, were able to sustain the possession that Man City were obviously going to keep. And when the counter-attack and got the goal from Havertz, it was just a beautiful pass from Mount. He gets in. They never really looked like conceding, did they? They were very solid. They obviously had a great game plan. It's just amazing their turnaround from when Lampard left, Tuchel came in. In the journey they've been on to finish in the top four. Obviously, they were beaten by Leicester in the FA Cup, but to win the Champions League, it's been an incredible 6 months for him.
Richard, you might be a good one to answer this one. 53106. Hi, John. Could you ask the lads what Glenn Whelan was like to play with? Feel like he was underappreciated by fans, but for the amount of caps he won under different managers, he must have been doing something right.
Glenn was great. Very, very good footballer and very consistent in what he did. I know people wanted him to do, well, certainly you hear fans who talk and say they wanted him to do more and stuff, but what he did in front of certainly the back four was outstanding. He was someone that was always available to receive the ball. He was always trying to link play up between the back line and probably the midfielders further up the field. And there's loads of players who play in that position who are unsung heroes, and people don't see the best of them, but they're so much appreciated within the team itself.
How are we feeling then about the Euros? Are we excited? Let's start off with England, David. Do you think England are potential winners, or would you have concerns about some of their positions?
Potential winners, I don't know. They've got a lot, in their squad. They've got vast amounts of talent. I think the biggest challenge Southgate, has is how do I get all these players playing at the best of their abilities? There's so many different options. Even in the front line, does he play Sancho? Does he play Foden? Does he play Rashford? There's so many. Grealish. There's so many of them. They have all the the tools and the capabilities of going all the way in the tournament. It's just whether or not Southgate can get them playing at that level. Obviously they're fresh off the back of a good World Cup in terms of getting to a semi-final. I think they'll be expecting again to get to the semi-final of this, but it's not as easy as that. There's a lot of other good nations. I think a big test for them would be their opening game, how they get on there and kind of set the tone for them going forward.
There's more expectation around England now, isn't there? The honeymoon is over for Gareth Southgate in a way, Richard, because of the talent in this team, especially going forward, is something else.
Yeah, they're really pleasing on the eye when you watch England. They play really good football. They're quick. They get forward well, and they've got, like David says, they've got that individual talent to go and beat players and win games, and they've got probably 3 or 4 match winners within their squad, so they're a very good side to watch. But I think what happens with England is they've not played anyone over the last while, and anytime they come up against a strong side, they seem to struggle. I think defensively they're not great, and they just don't. To me, they're good, but they're not a team. I don't think that will win the Euros. I think they've got. They'll play well. They'll be tough to beat, and I just don't see them when they play against stronger sides. I've not seen them play against them enough and threaten them and work them hard. So I just think they're missing that big game experience.
And the centre halves, are they solid for you, Richard?
If England have a weakness, I think it's defensively. I think that's where they will struggle. I think they're sometimes too focused on playing the ball out rather than that first thought of defend, and then when we have the opportunity, then we can pass it out. So I think the bigger sides will try and exploit that through the middle.
France, the world champions, I think they look even better than ever. They got Benzema back now, David. To me, they're the team to beat. Would you agree?
No, definitely. Obviously, coming into this, we were kind of, the lads had said, like, we'll be talking about the Euros and who do I think would win. And I think the kind of story of Benzema coming back, obviously, Deschamps is looking to try and win this. So, him coming back, it's just, as well as Giroud has done, he's been brilliant. Benzema is a better player, there's no doubt in that. And, him coming back into that playing, Griezmann off the right, Mbappe off the left. We know their midfield, their defenders, everyone. I just feel they're the team to beat. They've got everything going in their way, and I wouldn't be surprised if France won and Benzema ended up top goal scorer.
And for you, defensively, they got 3 of the 4 that played in the World Cup, Richard, in 2018. Kimpembe might come in. You've N'Golo Kanté. What can you say after last week and the last few weeks of the season? To me, they're nearly bomb-proof.
Yeah, and certainly you mentioned Kanté there. He's unbelievable. He makes such a big difference to any team that he plays in. I think when you look at the French squad, and you can pick 2 fairly strong sides to play with that, and they just look like they've got a little bit of everything. I think the adding of Benzema just gives them that little bit more mobility again up front. And I think with Giroud, you have almost a static centre forward who can finish and finishes really well. But with the movement of Benzema added to Mbappe and Griezmann, I think they're a real threat, and I can't see past them in terms of winning it.
In terms of Scotland, they've got good players like Andy Robertson, Kieran Tierney in there. They have been in the tournament for a long time. David, can they get out of the group? I suppose that's the first intention, isn't it?
No, of course. Do you know what? I want Scotland to do well. It's obviously, I've been 23 years since they were in a major tournament, going all the way back to France '98. But it's good to see, they've got some lads obviously playing in England, a few up at Celtic and whatnot. So you'll see quite a lot of them playing regularly. It just seems to be a good vibe coming out of Scotland. It's almost like a kind of a club feel that, the lads all get on really well. You obviously seen the result they had against Holland the other night in a warm-up game. Things are just moving right for them. So it's good to see, and obviously it's going to be difficult. Their group isn't exactly easy, but at the same time, they've nothing to lose. Obviously qualifying for this, you've seen the emotions after they won the playoffs. It's great, and I really do hope they do well. And I hope they beat England.
Yeah. Maybe you're not the only one in the country who feels that way. 53106. My son and I were to fly to London from Knock and get the tunnel to Paris for the Sweden game. This is in Euro 2016. The flight was cancelled, so we ended up driving from Galway, getting a 2 a.m. ferry to Holyhead, train to London, tunnel to Paris, search for the ticket office at the stadium, sat in our seats 30 seconds after kick-off in the middle of the Swedish section. I was 37 hours on the go before I got to sleep that night. Worth it all. Richard, that's what it's all about, isn't it? The stories of Gdansk and Poznan and also then in France that supporters will carry with them probably through many pints and bar conversations for the rest of their lives.
Yeah, that's it. It's the journey what makes it. Going to the games, you watch games every day, or you could go to the stadium all the time to watch games, but it's the journey and the experiences that people make from these tournaments. And I think, this one's all over the place this year, but I prefer it when it's in one place and they can gather and they can mix with the other fans and stuff like that. So it's a shame that obviously for the reasons that it won't be happening this year as much. But in terms of what you remember from World Cups and stuff like that, it's definitely the journey in getting that.
Will you go now, Richard, as a retired player to future tournaments, do you think?
If they qualify, I will, yeah. It's something that I'm looking forward to. It's like David said, when you're involved in it and you're part of it, you are a little bit sort of envious of what's going on outside, and you want to sample what the fans are sampling. So if we get the opportunity to do it, hopefully soon, it'll definitely be on the flight trying to travel around wherever they go. You
might be in Germany yet, or the United States, David, hopefully if we qualify.
No, definitely. The next major tournament Ireland come from, I'm going hell for leather, taking all 3 games in and jump in a camper van, wherever we're going, I'm all for it. Richie, if you want to lift, more than welcome.
Yeah.
Dunne and Meyler on tour.
Driver.
we can see a documentary out of this already, lads. It'd be like the Grand Tour with Ireland for the next tournament. What about a team like Belgium then, Richard? Like De Bruyne, Lukaku's banging in the goals in Italy, came close to the World Cup. Would you consider them winners of the Euros this year?
I have a feeling that Belgium have sort of missed the boat in terms of winning a tournament. I think they had an opportunity maybe 4 years ago when they were stronger and better than what they are now. I think Eden Hazard has lost a lot of form and is a big loss for them. De Bruyne is obviously coming in with an injury, so that's going to be difficult for him. But I just feel that France have passed them by, and France are way ahead of them at the moment. And as they've got decent individuals, I just don't see them as good as they were previously, and don't think they have a chance.
For Portugal, I think they might have a better chance than Belgium, David, when you consider looking at the squad, the quality that they have. Not only Cristiano Ronaldo, but Bruno Fernandes, Diogo Jota, all done from the Premier League, João Felix up front, and the Player of the Year in the Premier League, Ruben Diaz.
No, they do. They've got a nice little thing going on. Of course, look, we're blessed in seeing a lot of them have moved to the Premier League. Bruno, Diaz, of course, Diogo Jota. They've got a lot going for them, and of course, they've got a talisman in Ronaldo. So you can imagine if they do, stay in games, create chances, Cristiano will score goals. He's done it everywhere he's been. He's still doing it now. Do they have enough to win? Probably not, but you could see him getting to the latter parts of the tournament, the kind of quarterfinals, semi-finals. Then again, when you get to those kind of periods, it gets the squeaky bum time where, teams can get nervous and look, Ronaldo loves the big occasions. If he gets chances in the big games, he wants to be, the man on the front of every paper, every TV program. He wants that. So if he does get those chances, he'll score goals.
Ruben Diaz, everybody says and agrees that he's the Player of the Year in the Premier League. But Richard, you played for Manchester City. You've worn the T-shirt literally, and you were a great centre half. What is it specifically about Ruben Diaz that makes him stand out and makes him that quality player as a central defender?
I think in previous years, people have sort of taken their eye off the ball in the art of defending, and they're just starting to look at, which centre half can dribble the furthest or make the best passes. And he's sort of a hybrid. He can do both. He's very comfortable on the ball, but in terms of defending, he's outstanding. His positioning's right all the time. And I think it comes down to the fact that as the game's gone along, and it's been a little bit easier this year to notice it because of the being no fans, so you can hear him. As City move forward, he's behind them talking, directing people, getting them in position. So he's prepared when stuff breaks down or he knows he's going to have to defend. He's already prepared, and having that mindset to focus just on your defending first and foremost is a huge thing, certainly for a defender I think he's only just turned 24. He's led that whole back line of much more experienced players, but he's been the one he stood out a mile.
Were you much of a talker?
You have to be in that position, but it becomes a thing where I've seen it. You coaching kids and being around dressing rooms and stuff like that. Players are so focused now on themselves and their individual abilities that it's starting to drift over. And if you have a centre half who can organise and talk, like John Terry was doing at Chelsea, what Diaz is doing now at the moment, it's so important, and it's an art which needs to make sure it stays in the game.
David, did you appreciate defenders behind you that were talkers?
100%. Inevitably, Richie can tell you firsthand. He spoke about Glenn Whelan a while ago. If Richie's talking, or whoever was playing centre half behind me, if they're talking, they make your life easier, which makes their job easier. It's vital. It's a massive part of it. If there's a number 10 drifting in between the lines, trying to get in between the two of you, that centre half is telling you 5 yards right, 5 yards left. Those small things can make a massive difference, and you can cut out passes. You can, obviously block passing lanes where the player can't get on the ball. Inevitably, it gives your team time to get back into shape and whatever. So I loved whenever the centre half was constantly shouting at you, because that way, you're always switched on. You didn't have a moment not to think, where's my man? Where should I be? It's massive important in the game.
They're going to miss Virgil van Dijk, aren't they, the Dutch, when you're looking at their prospects for the Euros? once again, that leadership, that organisational presence. They've like De Ligt and De Vrij as well at the moment, Richard. But like a player like that is surely almost irreplaceable for a major tournament.
Yeah, he's the difference, I think, between Holland possibly having an opportunity to win the tournament or not. I think when you have one of the world's best players, you need them going into tournaments, and it's a huge blow for them that they haven't got him. Obviously, they've known about it for a long time and probably prepared without him, but it doesn't ease the blow when the tournament actually comes around. I think defensively they've got good players, but having that sort of, like you say, a talisman, someone that when the opposition centre forward looks at them, they just fear it and they think, I've not got much chance today. It gives your whole team such a boost.
Our panel, thanks to Paddy Power. For information on responsible gambling, visit gamblingcare.ie. If you want to text Richard Dunne or David Meyler, you can do so on 53106. Looking ahead to the Euros, and the general consensus so far is I think that France are everybody's pick. But Germany, David, maybe they're just a little bit beyond their best. Havertz and Werner, we saw play so well for Chelsea, but is it just a tournament too far for Germany in your view?
You never know with the Germans, do you? Obviously, Muller's come back into the scene. Obviously, Jurgen Loh made some changes a few years ago and kind of tried to go with this new and upcoming. You spoke there, Havertz, Julian Brand, all those boys, Gnabry kind of came through, and it didn't exactly work for them. So he's gone back to bring in the older experience, wants to probably help the younger lads out and kind of carry some of the weight. It's still Germany. They're a proven nation year in, year out. They turn up for tournaments and they can cause problems. You'd still expect them to go far. Obviously, they had a disappointing last tournament, so I'm expecting them to do better. Obviously, it's his last tournament before Hansi Flick comes in, so it'd be important, for those players to kind of, finish on a high for him.
And for Spain, Ferran Torres has been banging in the goals for his national team. Didn't really feature significantly for Manchester City, but a player for the future, and he might feature well for Spain in this tournament. Once again, do you see them as a transitional side, Richard, or do you see them as contenders?
I think, like you say, I think they're a transitional side. I think they've had a few ups and downs over the last couple of years, and they're not at the same level as they have been in previous tournaments. They obviously had that great result recently when they beat Germany 6-0, but I think they're a side probably lacking that big game experience as well. A team that's starting to be put together, but not quite the finished article. And obviously, they've got a lot of younger players coming through as well. So this is a tournament for them to learn from, I think, and to be stronger when the World Cup comes around.
For Denmark, I think they're possibly better now. They've got Christensen now there in defence. I suppose, David, you'd be glad not to see Denmark in a way. Every time we see Denmark play, they're usually against us. But do you see them as dark horses?
I don't even like talking about Denmark after that hiding. But they've got some very good players. Obviously, Christian Eriksen's a massive part of them. Look, you'd expect them to do all right. They are a tricky nation to play against. They have some very good players, certainly like Thomas Delaney's another one in midfield, very good player. You'd expect them to, cause, some of the bigger nations some problems. They're well organised, they've good players, they're very organised, like I said. So are they going to win it? I don't think it'll be like 92. They don't have those players, but they'll certainly cause an upset along the way.
And for Wales, Richard, is it all about Bale? And is Bale the Bale that he was 3 or 4 years ago? That's probably open to debate.
Yeah, I think we all know that he's probably not the same player that he was previously. But I think for Wales, and similar for Scotland, they have to go off almost the momentum, off an atmosphere that they create within their groups to make themselves feel that they're unbeatable, and they're going out on that pitch with 16 players instead of 11, and they're all in it together. And I think if they can get that sort of tight-knit feeling within the group and everyone's pulling in the same direction and playing off adrenaline almost, I think they can cause some trouble. I think if they sit back and rely on quality, I think the teams around them will be better than them and stronger.
Do you feel more nerves? Do you feel more adrenaline when at the greater stakes, Richard, or do you play so many matches in your football career that it just assimilates from one end to the other? Yeah,
all sorts of stuff like that, fear and adrenaline and focus and stuff. It's all right up to the final minute, just right up until kick-off. And then once kick-off happens, it's just a normal game again. You just play the game as it is, and all the thoughts and whatever you've been going throughout the week and the build-up just disappear, and it's almost instinct kicks back in, and you remember what you've been doing for the last 20 years and try and focus on that rather than focus on the occasions.
Because when I'm thinking of Richard Dunne, I'm thinking of David Meyler, I'm thinking of probably the two best games we played against in the last 30 years at Lansdowne Road, the Holland game and the Germany game. The Holland game in 01, was it, as you just said, once it started, you're just in the zone?
Yeah, and it's sometimes you can't explain it because things just go your way, or the opposition plays into your hands or whatever like that, and you get onto this rhythm of a game where it's all going well for you and stuff like that. And even losing a player and being 10 against a very, very good 11, you still have that sort of understanding, right? Well, my job is still the same. I still have to do the same things. And obviously coming out with a victory at the end of that is an incredible feeling after the work that you put into it.
Who are you marking? Did so many strikers at the end of the match? I can't count. Yeah. I lost count.
Yeah, there's millions. They had every Dutch striker from 2000 was playing in that match. It seems to be. I think people have said, well, was Hasselbank, Van Hooijdonk, Kluivert, Overmars. There was loads of them, and I think when you have that many on the pitch, you just try and kick the ball away. You don't worry about a defender or a striker. You just worry about clearing it and hope that it doesn't fall to one of them players, because generally they'll put it in the back of the net.
In the minutes before the final whistle goes, do you know, are you looking at the clock? Are you asking people how much is left? What's going through your head in the last few moments when you know you're leading?
Yeah, if the ball goes out of play and there's a minute left or something, when you're hanging on for a result, you know you're close and you just want to wish that whistle to blow. You feel like, certainly when it's games like that and you've done well, you've played really well, and it'll be a shame if you concede, and we deserve a victory, so you just want the whistle to go, and you're just hoping that as soon as it's almost like the fans realise before the players do, because the fans are watching the referee, and as soon as that whistle goes to his mouth, you can just hear the roar, and then it's just a release of relief for the players on the pitch.
That atmosphere was just, I don't know, it's almost indescribable. It was so great.
Yeah, it's one of those occasions which is very difficult to recreate. There's loads of great atmospheres in games, but there's only one or two which are really, really special moments, and that was an incredible moment, I think, for everyone in the stadium, and certainly for the ones that were on the pitch.
Now, you might not have been able to celebrate in Euro 2012. Did you celebrate that night?
After
the Dutch
Holland?
Yeah.
Yeah, probably celebrated for a couple of nights after that one. It was a huge result and a huge moment, I suppose, in all our careers to get to a qualifier for a World Cup, and yeah, it was certainly something worth celebrating and enjoying.
The Germany game, David, was similar emotions?
No, 100%. Obviously, that Germany team was, after winning the World Cup, they were unbelievable, but just staying in the game. You know, you get to the dying minutes and you're 1-0 up. You don't even have time, JD, to, ask the referee or look at the clock. You're, certainly for me as a whole midfielder, or even for Richie's centre-half, you're screaming at the midfielders, you're screaming at the forwards to get back, you're pulling people here, there and everywhere. You're just desperate to clear the ball. You're desperate not to be the one to make a mistake. You don't want your teammate to make a mistake, because you know you're at the moment of, doing something that's incredible. And that was like that night, Lange obviously scored. It was massive for us in the group after losing to Scotland. Just a huge occasion, and we ran our luck. I think we had 18% possession. I think it was Thomas Muller hit the bar or something. It was just unbelievable. And then when the final whistle goes, you can't even celebrate. You just, the relief comes out of you thinking we finally, we've gotten over the line here. It's moments like those and occasions and the atmosphere. You can hear the fans cheering you on, kind of like, come on, like we're nearly there. Those are the ones you remember.
Are you just knackered as well, in a way?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. It's the physical part of it, but it's a lot of it's the mental part too, of like being switched on whether it could be, shifting 3 yards right, shifting 3 yards backwards or forwards, just to, close someone down. You just have to be so switched on. You have to be at 100% thinking of, well, if one of my teammates loses a player, do I shift across? But if I shift across, somebody from the opposite side has to come in, and you're screaming. And there's a great image of me is, Germany are attacking and the ball falls, and I grip hold of the referee to throw him out of the way, because Germany are trying to pick up the second ball, and I kind of manhandle the referee, because what's on the line, what's at stake. You need to obviously get the ball to stop Germany attacking. It's those little things that really do matter, but a lot of it is mental over physical, because we're all fit players, but it's being switched on for the full 93, 94, 95 minutes, whatever it may be.
And was it like Richard Dunne? Was it 2 days for you celebrating was after the Germany game, David?
Do you know what? I'm trying, as you asked Richie, I'm trying to think, but we definitely went out that night anyway. I'm not sure if it was 2 or 3 days.
Just on the Euros, maybe the player of the tournament, Paul Pogba, might be one of the contenders. Seamus has been in touch on 53106. Would you ask David and Richard, do they think this is the big chance for Pogba to prove he is world class? Do they think he's world class regardless? Richard, do you think he's world class?
I think he's a very good footballer. I don't think he's world class. I don't think he makes enough of an impact in games to be considered as world class. He's very fortunate in terms of the French team that he plays with. He's got an opportunity to go and win tournaments, and will always be sort of talked about because of his high profile. But if you're looking at probably the best player on France, obviously you go for the glory and you look for Mbappe or Benzema, the guys who will score the goals. But for me, I just can't see past Kante. I think he's incredible, and he's the difference between a team that's good and a team that's great. He's so mobile and just everywhere on the pitch, and so humble as it seems to be as well, how he does it all.
Are they your prediction for the tournament, Richard?
France?
Yeah,
definitely. I think France will be favourites for the tournament. I think probably Benzema will be top scorer, and I think Kante will be the player of the tournament.
The trifecta for France. Any dark horse for you, Richard?
I like Portugal. I like their squad that they have at Portugal. I think they've got some really, really good players coming off the back of a really good season for a lot of them. So I think they'll be a dark horse, but they're in that group. They're in with France and they're in with Germany, and I think whoever runners up in that end up playing England. So it's a complicated route for them for Portugal if they come out of that group second.
Are France your winners, David?
Yeah, I think, like Richie said there, I think Kante's the one, isn't he? I wouldn't be surprised if he was player of the tournament and then went on to win the Ballon d'Or. He's had that good of a year. Just obviously bringing Benzema back, I think they'll be really disappointed if they don't win it.
And your player of the tournament?
Kante. That's what I think. My dark horse is, for some strange reason, I just have this gut feeling about Italy. I don't know why. Not like they've proven or done anything to suggest that they'd be contenders for it, but I just have a feeling the old Italians will come good.
And your top scorer, David?
Benzema.
So Benzema, France, Conte, pretty much agreement here from Richard Dunn and David Meyler here on the Saturday panel on our European Championship preview. And England, how do we think they'll do?
I think they'll do. I think they'll struggle after, if they win their group. I think in round 2, I think they played France, Portugal or Germany, and I think that's a big ask for them. I don't see them being able to beat a side as strong as that. So I think England could go in round 2.
And England for you, David?
I'll say quarterfinals. I think they'll get out of their group fine. I think if they get Germany or Portugal, I think they'll beat them. I think they'll get a bit confident and cocky, and they'll be singing "Football's Coming Home," and I think they'll get knocked out then.
Okay. Well, David Meyler, Richard Dunn, I really appreciate the insight over the last hour and for joining us on this bank holiday weekend on the Saturday panel. Thanks to Paddy Power. To look ahead to the Euros, to give your expertise, and we look forward to speaking soon.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers. Thank you.
Richard Dunne and David Meyler there on the Saturday panel. Thanks to Paddy Parr. And we're going to be joined after the break by Vera Pauw, the Republic of Ireland women's team manager, and then more football chat between 3 and 5 with Dan McDonnell and Shane Keegan, looking back on the Republic of Ireland's win over Andorra, previewing the match against Hungary on Tuesday, where Stephen Kenny looking for a second win in a row. We'll also keep you right up to date with all the scores as well from around the country and Gaelic games and all the other sports news. So don't go away. This is Off the Ball Saturday on News Talk. We're back after this.
Off the Ball on News Talk.
This Sunday morning on Alive and Kicking, the Daily Dish duo Gina and Carl on their 2 best-selling cookbooks, which they say makes bold food healthy. And the mental health reform on why the government need to build mental health supports at the centre of COVID recovery plans. And psychologist Alison Keating gives her advice to anyone struggling with the new normal.
Alive and Kicking with Claire McKenna.
This Sunday morning at 9.
On News Talk.
Your pet is your best pal, but who would look after them if anything happened to you? Join the DSPCA's Pet Guardian programme and enjoy peace of mind in knowing that we'll find a suitable home for your pet if you're no longer there to care for them. Find out more about the DSPCA's Pet Guardian programme or how to make your